I've never gone to art school. Okay, I've been to art classes in primary and secondary school, learned some basic skills here and there, did the occasional collage as part of my homework, but that's about it. I started taking up painting in 2020 right before the pandemic, and it kind of stuck with me since then. However, although I was enjoying painting and doing art, I felt like I wasn't improving at the pace I wanted to, so I am going to change that this year. Things are going to be different. I came up with a game plan which consisted of 4 guidelines or principles, if you will, to help me to improve faster this year. If you are a self-taught artist like me and am not sure where to begin, you have come to the right place. The first thing that I am going to do in 2023 is to practice more. I know this seems obvious and maybe a slightly overused tip, but sometimes you just need an external reminder nudging you to practice more. But why is practicing so important? Whenever I think of the value of practice, the following story by David Bales and Ted Orlin from the book Art and Fear comes to mind. A ceramics teacher divided his class into 2 groups. The first group was graded solely on the quantity of work that they produced, whereas the second group was graded based on the quality of work they produced. On the final day of class, the ceramics teacher would grade the quantity group based on how many pots they made, whereas those graded on quality only had to produce 1 pot, albeit a perfect pot, to get an A. When the final day came, what was curious was that the works of the highest quality came from the quantity group. While the quantity group was busy making pots and learning from their mistakes, the quality group sat theorizing about perfection and ended up with nothing to show for it. Some say that quality is more important than quality, but I argue that quantity leads to quality. I have been painting for 2 years, but how much time during those 2 years did I actually spend doing art? After life started going back to normalcy, I barely did any art. So what hinders you from practicing more? Is it the fear of failure? The fear of not being able to produce a work that is of a certain quality? Is it the lack of time, or rather the lack of prioritization? For me, I think it was a combination of all these factors. So then, what are actionable steps that we can take to practice more or want to practice more? Taking part in challenges is a good way to be motivated to practice more. Some examples are the Pantone Challenge, which I took part in November 2022. If you would like to find out more about it, you can check out my video. The link is in the description box down below. Art prompts, which are super popular on Instagram, are also helpful, and taking part in these challenges is fun, which will make you more motivated to make art. They also make me accountable, especially if you're taking part in this challenge as a community and are posting your progress on social media. The second method I am going to use is to use reference photos and do more studies as well. And when I first started painting, I used to feel like a fraud whenever I used reference photos, and I had the mindset that if I was a good artist, I shouldn't need to use reference photos at all. But this couldn't be further from the truth. Using reference photos allow you to gain a better understanding of the subject or scene that you are painting, which allows you to slowly build up your visual memory, allowing you to become more adept at painting. I get most of my reference photos from Unsplash and Pinterest, and I would highly recommend these platforms as sources of inspiration as well. And what are art studies? An art study is basically a drawing, sketch, or painting done in preparation for a finished piece as visual notes or as practice. I will be doing art studies based on things I want to improve on, like nature, such as mountains, grass, clouds, objects like fruits, architecture, clothes, or anatomy like the nose, eyes, and hands. And this is by no means an exhaustive list. These are just examples off the top of my head. Art studies are so important because it allows you to practice drawing the same thing in different ways, from different perspectives, and in different scenes. I feel that this will allow me to be more adept at painting that particular object because I will understand better how that object looks from different angles and in different lighting. And I feel that by slowly getting more comfortable and confident in painting variations of the same object, I will be able to then slowly make it my own and incorporate it into my art style. Thirdly, I will be using different tools to learn the proper techniques in art. I started off by watching art tutorials on YouTube and now mostly just do my own paintings and learn from the mistakes made during those sessions. However, I have slowly started acquiring art books talking in depth about different art techniques and concepts. These are some of the books that I've gotten so far, and I am still looking for more books to buy, to learn, and to refer to whenever necessary, and maybe I will make a video sharing my collection of art books once I collect enough and have a better idea of which ones are the most useful. Online platforms like Domestika and Skillshare are also freely available. They are really useful as well because there is some form of continuity as there are multiple mini classes talking about the same topic. I recently purchased a few classes from Domestika on Black Friday and have been enjoying the experience so far. I find that art books and these online platforms will be able to provide a slightly more comprehensive and structured syllabus, hence allowing me to paint and do art more critically and with more awareness. The last tip will be to break it down into easy, actionable steps. Art is a broad subject. When I first gained an interest in art, I wanted to do everything. I wanted to draw humans, animals, I wanted to do bullet journaling, calligraphy, acrylics, then watercolor, then gouache, and you get the idea. If you want to do everything, you end up doing nothing. I wanted to try everything that I felt like I ended up just dabbling a little bit in everything, and before I could practice it enough to become good at it, I was off trying something else. So then how do you break learning art down into smaller bite-sized pieces? I would split it into 3 broad categories, that is objects, mediums, and technique. There may be a better way to categorize this, but this is what I came up with. Objects can be anything from nature, animals, fruits, basically a single subject you want to focus on. Some examples of mediums would be watercolor, gouache, color pencils, digital illustration, and so on. Techniques can range from anatomy, color theory, composition, perspective drawing, and so on. Don't get me wrong though, if you're just starting out in art or running low on inspiration and feel like doing art has become a mundane chore, I would totally recommend trying different things that inspire you. Dabble a bit in everything, see what you enjoy, see what you're good at. Once you've found what you really enjoy and what you're good at, start working at it. I find this tip slightly more applicable to mediums though, so perhaps try to focus on 2 to 3 main mediums, and after finding out which ones work for you, rather than trying to become an expert at all the mediums all at once. Are you still feeling at a loss as to where to begin? Now that I've shared with you guys these 4 guidelines and principles, I'm going to tell you how to actually turn them into a game plan. So first, start a spreadsheet and take a moment to write down your art goals for 2023. Know what you're working towards and what your end goal for this year is. Mine is to get better at gouache and to learn how to do portrait drawings. Next, I will set aside the first month to learn the theory of the different principles of art, mainly color, composition, value, form, anatomy, brushwork, and perspective. There are many good courses out there on YouTube, Skillshare, and Domestika, as well as comprehensive art books talking about these topics. And I personally have an online course which I took back in 2020 that I will probably revisit as well. And don't worry about feeling like there is a lot to learn. This is just learning the theory and setting the groundwork. Afterwards, pick out a few particular objects you want to work on. In this case, if I want to improve on anatomy this year, then I will break it down into smaller sections like the eyes, nose, and hands. Learn the theory behind how to draw these things and then get to practicing. I was inspired by Jess Cup's 100 Hits challenge, and I will definitely be doing a couple of such challenges as well, as I think doing so is a sure way to improve due to the sheer amount of practice you can glean from this. And then keep repeating this process for different things you want to work on. I am just a baby artist myself, and honestly, half the time I feel like an imposter because I've never been to art school and never received proper training. And I'm sure that some of you are like me, feeling lost as well. And I think that's what makes showing my growth as an artist here on YouTube so special, because if this makes you feel less alone in your journey, then that is worth it. Subscribe to join me as I continue to share my journey through DIY art school. And here's to growing together in 2023.